Good evening and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Kettering Planning Commission for Monday, March 16th, 2026. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Miami Valley Communications Council for televising and taping tonight's meeting for rebroadcast on Spectrum Cable GATV Channel 6 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99 and streaming live over the internet at mvcc.video.
Maybe back the mic a little bit.
Okay, getting a little feedback.
A little bit.
It will also be recorded and available for later viewing on mvcc.video. Since this meeting is both audio and videotaped to form a complete record for possible appeal to City Council and or the courts, it's important that anyone who wishes to address the Commission to please come to the lectern and speak into the microphone and give their name and address for the record. The Planning Commission is a volunteer, independent body appointed by the Council, whose mission is to hear all bodies involved and subsequently to make a motion to approve, deny, continue, or recommend the application. All actions by the Commission can be appealed to the City Council. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce members of the Planning Commission present tonight. To your extreme right is Ken Lackey, Secretary. Next would be Connie Gao, our recording secretary, who has excused absence. I'm Ray Waskey, the chairman. Next to me is Don Rethman, vice chairman. And following him is Troy Urbis, the assistant secretary. Members of our city staff tonight are Tom Robillard, director of Planning and Development, and Ryan Holmesy, city planner and zoning administrator, who will be acting as our recording secretary for this meeting. Okay, under old business, we'll begin with an update to the comprehensive plan for the city of Kettering, planning case 26-004. We'll begin with staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Roski. As you may recall, about a month or two ago, we made a presentation to you what we consider the Comprehensive Plan 2.0, which was an earlier version to seek any comments that you might have and just introduce it to you. And then over this past month or so, we've made a few revisions to it and are ready to seek final approvals of it. Tonight we have Kyle May. He's our representative from MKSK, who has completed all the plan for us. So he'll make a short presentation, and then if you're comfortable with it, to make a recommendation to City Council, you can certainly do that. I provided a draft motion for you. If you want to continue it till the next meeting and continue to make comments and ask questions, you're more than free to do that as well. But the final action will be to ask you to make a recommendation of approval to the City Council. With that, I'm going to have Kyle make a presentation.
Kyle, please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Kyle May. My address is 1874 Guilford Road, Columbus, Ohio, 43220.
Thank you.
See if your microphone's on.
I'm sorry?
Can you check and see if your microphone's on?
Yeah, can you hear me? Oop, how about now?
There we go.
Is that better? Let me say it again.
Yeah.
Okay, Kyle May, 1874 Guilford Road, Columbus, Ohio, 43221.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Tom. Thank you for that introduction. Very excited to be here with you all toward the end of a long road, I think, in your city. And again, really appreciate this opportunity to craft this policy on your behalf and on behalf of the broader community in Kettering. We've had the opportunity through this work to talk with several hundred residents, stakeholders, leadership, and form up what we believe to be a thorough, rich, and poignant, comprehensive plan on your all's behalf. So, like I mentioned, excited. I think our point and purpose here this evening is not to overwhelm you with the same presentation you've seen several times, hit some of the high points and how we got to today, but ultimately facilitate some discussion here, Tom, on your reactions to the plan, your comments on the plan, and the pathway maybe beyond its future adoption. So a couple slides that I wanted to share. Brian, to be helping me. This is my first time using a clicker. Quick reminder on our planning team. Would be ridiculous for me to introduce this plan without introducing my colleague Jessica, who has been instrumental in her leadership throughout the work to develop this plan, along with our longtime regular partner Randy Gross, who's provided the market and economic insight throughout the plan. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the work of our team, but also the work of staff who has put in many hours, many long hours reviewing, refining, and building up this final document, but also your community, your council, this body, stakeholders, neighborhood leadership, and of course the people of the city of Kettering as well. So very thankful to all those folks who have gotten in charge. We're here to review the plan. We're here to talk about some of the development, community engagement aspects of that, speak at a high level about some of the recommendations that made it at a priority level inside this, but also hit on what this plan, we hope for it to be ideally used as for you all in terms of long-term leadership and everyday guidance for the city of Kettering for years to come. Quick overview of the process. Why do we do this now? Well, you're sitting inside of a dynamic region and a dynamic time for this region. So the last plan, not to date Tom, but is about 20 years old. Or 20 years young, Tom, excuse me. It was time for a refresh. This is an important document for you all as leaders, as commissioners. It's important to have this policy backstop that's grounded in really strong data, a really strong snapshot of who you are and who you're becoming. Where do you want to go? What do you want to take advantage of in terms of opportunities? What do you want to mitigate in terms of challenges? The plan, in over 200 pages, tries to anticipate as many of those moving forward and prepare you all for those decisions yet to become. So anticipation is the key. Seizing on opportunities and addressing any challenges that may be in your way. There's some building blocks that are part of this. Of course, that profile, it's 200 pages, but believe it or not, it could have been longer. We have a conditions and trends assessment that really covers a lot of the data background, as well as engagement summaries from our two major rounds of community engagement, both in person and online. So there's a rich set of data and commentary below the surface of this policy document. It's also going to be available to this team and this group moving forward. The most essential pieces have been gathered up in this final document, however. Where we are in the process, as I mentioned, it's been a long road. We've had community engagement. We've had advisory stakeholder meetings, meeting with different groups from around the city. We've had a previous discussion with you all and very much appreciated as we iterated this plan over this lifespan of the work. Had a council work session here very recently, Tom, where we introduced and socialized the draft plan. And tonight we're seeking a recommendation or discussion here as we pursue adoption for the comprehensive plan. Very quickly on the plan, and I trust you all have read every single word of that. I know Don said he has. It's broken up into four essential pieces in terms of its organization. An introduction, why are we doing this? Why is this important? Remembering we tried to write this plan for any resident or business owner or interested party in Kettering. They want to be here, they want to invest here. They should be able to pick up this plan ideally and be able to recognize what your vision is for the future, where you all want to invest. So that introduction is key. We wanted to talk about engagement and what we've done as part of the conversation to undergird some of these recommendations. So it's quite clear that the ideas that are in here, yes, they're supported by technical research and rigor, but they're also an outgrowth of a really strong community conversation that has grown up through the work that we shared together. Ultimately, the key in work like this is that bundle of projects and policies and programs that you all have assigned yourself as part of that recommendation agenda. The action agenda that's gathered there has a plan framework, it has core pillars, and then a really key thing has to do with the growth, conservation, and development mapping that you all developed as part of this work. Sometimes we call it the future land use map. A lot of components of that map, a paint by colors in some ways, right? Looks a lot like who you are right now. It's about maintenance, Tom, it's about management, it's about maintaining this incredible community that you all have inherited. But we also see inside this a number of really great opportunities opportunities for this place as you think about the future chapters. This is a community that's never shied away from bold thinking when it comes to your most precious resources, which is your land. And this plan tries to continue that energy and think about some other future focus areas where we see great opportunity for you all. And last, as part of our package here, implementation really tries to take all these recommendations and think about what's going to be the step one for you all moving from today, from adoption and into the next 5, 10, 20 years maybe, Tom, of work in community investment and transformation. We were really lucky in this process. You all remember that we came right at the end of the 9th inning into the first inning off of Spark Kettering, which was a citywide strategic planning effort, a lot of community engagement involved with that to arrive at a vision for the future of the community, as well as some key goals to drive that forward. We took that, we embedded that inside of the policy document we were creating as part of the comprehensive plan, and really benefited from that discussion throughout the work. So this vision statement, many of the goals, there's a lot of resonance between A and between B, and as I mentioned, we were lucky to have that. Impossibly small font to read. I'll talk to Jessica about that later, but in terms of organization, we had our vision statement, which really guided the work. Also these plan pillars, which take that vision and break that down into the different pieces and parts, programs, and functionality of a city like Kettering. Remember, when you do a comprehensive plan, there's going to be a lot of things that we develop inside of that plan that you all as a city can just go do. They're your projects, they're things that you can go fund, you can check up on, you can say they're done, but there's also a lot of good policy and work inside of this where you can be an influential factor. So you sit inside a dynamic region, you're an important part of that region, and there's systems that you benefit from and that benefit from you being inside of that region. So we talk a lot about those inside of this, also inside of our plan topics. Parks, systems like infrastructure, community well-being, economic vitality, and so on. The key plan tools that are part of this, I'm going to cherry pick a couple out of here, but as Tom and Ryan know, there's a lot more beneath the surface. Future land use map. It's a core element of every comprehensive plan. I hope that it's something that you all, as you look at, recognize and will feel very comfortable referencing as you're doing your deliberative work here into the future. A future land use map is not meant to be perfect, but it is meant to be as predictive as you can possibly be in the static year you sit in, preparing for that next year, that next 10 years, that next 15 years of community change and advancement. It takes place types and applies them down to your map. Again, it might be about maintenance and management, or it might be about anticipating where you could see some real revitalization or renovation. Thoroughfare plan, another key component of this, has to do with your streets, but not just how they function in terms of classification, how they look, how they're formed, how they support land uses as well. So a typology series alongside of your thoroughfare plan, thinking about that entire right-of-way, how you're treating that street which is yours, that street which may be shared, and you're using that to, yes, move vehicles, but also move people and move the market where you see fit. Last inside of this, of course, the implementation strategies, but also these focus areas, a thing that's been a hot part of our conversation throughout. That's where we've tried to look and anticipate where there may be some susceptibility to change. Remember, your community patterns changed a lot in the last 20 years, especially in the last 50 years, where you can anticipate there may be change. Why not inside of your comprehensive plan? Not try to predict the future, but get in front, maybe just one step ahead of a conversation that may be forthcoming to prepare you all with taking that vision, that really bold one in Spark, and bringing that down to a parcel, to a street level, and say, if we're going to do that, and we're going to do that here, what does that begin to look like? 5 key areas in our community that we identified that were focus areas throughout this work. And you'll see that reflected here: growth, development, and conservation. Each of those words is important to us. And I'll just start with that one word, growth. I think a lot of what we heard throughout our community conversation for this group, for council, had to do with that continuous reinvestment that this community has always benefited from. I think this is a place that thinks critically about the next 5 years, about the next 10 years, and that's what that growth word is really all about. It's not always necessarily physical growth, but it's how you've matured your conversation and matured your community and met the needs of that community in an anticipatory fashion. Development and conservation, those 2 words are really complementary inside of this. And we thought about development because that's how communities physically do grow. There's good forms of that, there's bad forms of that, but really what we deal with, what you all deal with, is that in between. And what this plan is hopefully providing some guidance and reference on is what are the principles that define good, what are the principles that define we need to change some of this to make it over into good. So development was a key part of our conversation. And last, conservation. This community, an incredible parks network, part of a regional system of parks as well, but not just about parks. It's open space at all scales. It's trails that connect you as well. A major part of our discussion with the public had to do with those green spaces in your community and how they add so much to who you are and your qualities of life. Certainly won't go individual points here, but future land use, we did talk a lot in this about your inventory, what you have down on the ground. We looked into the fact that you have a limited land supply. That was a theme 20 years ago, so imagine what that theme looks like. Now, you're an infill. You're a look-in community, and what that means is that these decisions are really important as you consider them. So if someone wants to be here, we hope that this plan provides a pretty strong backstop to say, if you want to be here, number one, that's great. We want you to be too. But let's talk about what that means to be here, to be invested in Kettering, especially in a prominent scale, especially at a place that starts to move the needle on quality of place, quality of life, or even quality of opportunity. We evaluated your land area to think about susceptibility to change. I talked about that a little bit in our future land use map, and try to think about breaking this whole city down into some places that are a little bit more dynamic. And that's where we identified in this, Tom, some of those focus areas where we just took that slightly closer look. And inside of those, the last point I'll make on this slide, we did have some principles for what growth, development, conservation really ought to behave like in the city. And again, these are some words that we craft, some words that staff craft, but a lot of words that the public helps to craft in terms of how development needs to occur inside of Kettering. What works here, what doesn't work here, and how do we put that into words that can then be applied to a site plan that can be reviewed based upon that criteria. All right, now let's look at the impossible to view map from space. But the future land use map, I'm intentionally putting this in here to show you that it is both direction providing and a little complex. And that's who you are as a city, Kettering. I think when we first got involved in this plan almost a year and a half ago, feels about right, about a year and a half ago. The one thing to stress about your community is how complete you are. From the top to the bottom to the side, you hold a lot of land uses. You hold a lot of different jobs. You hold a lot of eras of development as well. That is one of some of your core advantage as a city of Kettering. You have great green spaces. You have great businesses that have grown up here and chosen to stay here. You also have an incredible housing stock that mixes a range of products and ages. And you know what that does? That makes you more affordable than some of the other benchmark places around the state. It also makes you really hard to compare to other places. You're a very unique city in the state of Ohio. I would even argue in the Midwest. And because of that, when we think about your future land use map, we're not dealing in bulldozers and sweeping the plain clean, of course, because that's not ever possible. What we're talking about is minor tweaks and fixes and interventions where we can expect that there may be some change that is coming. So inside of this, yes, we have a lot of maintenance and a lot of management that's implied. We call out some of the different land use types that we may see grow up or continue to be maintained. And we also identify in this, as you can see in some of the black lines here, where our focus area boundaries may lay. And our process here was quite simple. I think we went through this last time, so I won't belabor this. We start with the future land use. We zoom down. We apply these areas. Why here? A couple commonalities, these focus areas, should this come up in the future. One, we just have an aging building type. And in housing, that's one thing. I think in the commercial product, it's a little bit different. Diminishing lease values, varying levels of upkeep. Not universal by any means, but as you think about throwing a lasso in some of these places, we identified some nodes and some historic centers where the latent energy is there. But the current structure might not be one that's with you in the next 20 years. They may be centered around some existing neighborhoods. That's another important characteristic of some of your core shopping centers and core retail areas inside of Kettering. They are nested fully within your residential pattern and have huge opportunities when it comes to walkability in the future. It may just be inhibited by some of the way those sites have been planned in a legacy sense. So we identify inside of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key focus areas that we took that slightly closer look at, as well as some economic development centers and opportunities inside of this as well, and including in this thing some recommendations to staff and to others to consider some other areas in the future where they might want to take this closer look as well. So here we are, version 3.0. And every time we advance a number, it means we've made some substantial changes in the document. I think a key difference between 2.0 and 3.0, Tom, and you may have some other comments on this, has to do with some of the organization of the plan. So we've taken a chapter that was really dealing in governance. We've placed that more into the remit of city manager's office. So I think as we move forward, we think about how the governance section of this is treated, really something that's taken care of in a regular, whether it's biannual or annual strategic planning effort that leadership may take on. And that just has to do with ongoing implementation and management and maintenance of this plan in the long term. Additionally, think about that implementation matrix as you looked at an even longer version, if you can believe it, of this plan. We took that matrix and placed that into an appendix, but every single thing that we've identified as an action, we have represented in that matrix. We also have assigned in that a time scale, some early thoughts on financing and funding, and also a responsible party, whether it's inside this building or it's in partnership with others around the region. We've met with community members, we've met with boards, and all over a version and draft. We've collected well over 1,000 comments in that draft and made a lot of headway to get to 3.0 version of this comp plan. So when I say that this plan is not just my idea or Jessica ideas or, God help us, Ryan's ideas, it's really an assemblage of everyone that's been involved, and we've been so grateful for how eager we've seen the community to get involved. So for tonight, Tom, unless I'm misrepresenting our agenda, open to reactions, comments, discussion, questions you all have about where we are here today, and then ultimately identify some areas that may need clarification, refinement, either verbally or in a version. And I think as Tom mentioned earlier, a potential action for you all in pursuit of our ultimate goal, which in this would be adoption by council and becoming your backstop policy guide. Hopefully not for the next 20 years. Maybe do it in 10 years, Tom, but we'll see about the timing for your next one.
Yeah, maybe 10, maybe 15.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
I probably won't be around, but Ryan will be here.
You'll be retired.
Ryan will be here.
So with that, the Commission, thank you all very much for this opportunity. I'd be happy to address any questions or comments you all have.
Thank you. Any questions from Commission?
Just maybe, from great report, I really appreciate the work they did, the city did. I think the public had a lot of input on it. As a planning commission body, what would your expectation or what would your recommendation be to us to say, hey, folks, this is what you need to do to help spur this to continue along?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, one, take a read of it. I think top to bottom. I would try to get into the leadership role you all take on and trying to make some subjective and objective decisions about growth and development here. Try to really study the principles that we've surrounded a lot of these focus areas with. I think and not even just the focus areas. I think this whole idea of future land use. What is it that makes a good project in Kettering? We took a long time to discuss that with your leadership, to discuss that with the community. What looks right here? What fits here? That's some of that core DNA that's like evolutionary of the place, right? You just kind of become one way or another. And I think there's a little bit of tweaking that was inferred by some of the comments we had. But I think as you get into those principle language, as you look into some of the nuance of the site planning that we did, and remember, it's just visionary for those focus areas, you'll see how we've tried to take some of those principles and we've turned them into like the where that could happen, what that might mean inside a site. That a site can't just be used for, or a site might not just be used for one thing, but can be multiple things at once and still be very successful. So I would say starting with those principles, I think the trivia around the recommendations and which verb and who we assign them to, really that stuff is all for right now. It's supposed to be a snapshot guide, a best guess is what we think the basket of goods look like for you all to accomplish something. But I would always encourage a community like yours, you have your plan, 2 years from now you look back and go, was that the right basket? We know the goals are right. We know the vision is right. We know the principles are right. Where are we getting traction on these things and where aren't we? And I think as leadership, you're privy to weigh in on that and say, here, we thought this action was the right one back in 2026, but now looking on 2 years, a lot can happen. We might want to tweak this experiment a little bit. And you all being on the front line of these conversations, you're going to see that a lot more than others. So I think understanding what the win looks like, understanding at the root what the community was in search of in great projects, you're going to be armed with some great decision-making policy tools, I think.
Appreciate
help?
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have anything.
I don't have any questions either. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Great document. There's a ton of stuff to still go through. I'm still finding my way through the document here, but you did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
I know you've spent a ton of. How many man hours went into this thing?
I don't want to say.
Person hours.
More woman hours from Jessica, but we've spent a lot of time. This is and you need to. This is really important. It's an important document for you all. It's an important community. I think we take seriously what this represents, for you all. And one recommendation I would have as this grows, we write the big one first, but I would challenge this group beyond adoption to start to boil this down, to think about what the executive summary, to think about what some of the core statements are out of this. It's a really good tool for you moving forward. But yeah, we've spent time because it matters.
You'll see in the implementation chart, or all the strategies and recommendations, there's, 108 of them, I believe?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And we've tried to go through and assign timeframes to accomplish those. Some are 6 months, some are 1 to 3 years, some are 3 to 7 years, and then some of them are really long term. We've got the Parks Master Plan wrapping up as well, so it'll have a lot of strategies that Parks Department will undertake. Of course, we still have the strategic plan that has recommendations that we need to follow. So there's a lot there. So we're going to be working internally at staff to prioritize all those, throw them in a hopper, and prioritize, which ones certain groups should work on first, but that still doesn't take away that we still need to do these in these time frames. So we will be working on those. One of our goals is to come back to you at least once a year to give you a report on here's what we've done over the last year, here's what we're going to try to accomplish over the next year. Keep us on track. That's what we're asking for. Ask us questions when you see something, development going on, and saying, is that really in line with the comprehensive plan? When we have zoning code amendments, recommendations like that, is this in line with the comprehensive plan? And if we've done our homework, we should be able to say, yes, it meets these 5 guidelines, or no, it doesn't meet these recommendations, or no, it doesn't meet these recommendations. There may be projects that meet some of the recommendations and don't meet some of the recommendations at the same time. So, we'll have to figure those out as they come along.
I was just thinking, when I heard you say maybe meet with us and update us on an annual basis, but that sounds like a long time between updates. This sounds like a pretty dynamic process. I wonder if we could do that maybe semi-annually?
Yeah, certainly.
I know that probably increases your workload on staff's time, but I think maybe a semi-annual update. That way we can provide more meaningful input to the staff.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I think that's a fine idea. Particularly at the start with, it's, there is going to be a lot of stuff going on, and
Right.
and that kind of thing forces us to keep these things in mind. You'll see from us that, we get distracted like everybody else. We got a lot of stuff going on in our department all the time. So keeping our eye on the big picture, it can get lost sometimes. And so we do need to be refocused, look at that long-term picture, and are we, make a determination if we're still going in the right direction. So.
I also think that probably short term, as I was reading through some of the tasks, wherever I did see that there's some, rezoning that will probably find its way to us as in terms of being able to better implement this plan. I think there's some underlying zoning changes that are probably going to be surfacing at some point here. So
Yes, actually, sooner than later, I was going to give you a short little update, but the last zoning code amendment that you reviewed and got approved by City Council, it established neighborhood business districts. We don't have any neighborhood business districts out there on the ground, so our next task is to actually go about and rezone those properties. Those properties we've identified through the land use plan, future land use plan. They're scattered throughout the city and identified as neighborhood business. So our intent is to go about and then rezone those properties to neighborhood business. So that will be coming to you very shortly, maybe like in 2 weeks.
Oh,
nice.
okay.
It kind of also goes along, one of the main driving tasks for that, or reasons for that, is over the last year, the city council, or the city has been, we've received a lot of requests for gas stations and drive-through kiosks and other things. So about a year and a half ago, the city council put a moratorium on gas stations, car washes, kiosks, and small box discount stores. So we've gone through the process of updating the zoning code. Now the next part of that implementation is to make these rezonings happen. So. And that, some of the things that we identified, I've got to say this too, some of the things we identified early on in the process of the comprehensive plan, we really couldn't wait on, such as that particular issue. It was identified early that, hey, we gotta really focus on making sure that we protect our neighborhoods and protect them from vehicle-intensive uses on business properties. So you see the neighborhood business districts will be in those areas that are very sensitive or have a potentially very sensitive impact on neighbors. And they allow all the business uses except for intense drive auto-oriented uses. So. I do want to give one really good last kudos to Ryan Holmesy here. He did a tremendous amount of work. He really shepherded this whole thing along through on the city's part. So he did a lot of work on this. Appreciate it.
Not
Appreciate
alone.
Troy and Don were both part of the committee that put this together.
That's
so we
right.
appreciate
Steering
them
committee.
representing the Planning Commission as part of that process as well.
Yeah.
It was definitely a team effort. We roped a lot of departments into the review and the work. I'm sure they were very excited and happy to be a part of the process, but they all provided great input, and looking forward to moving forward to the next step.
Well, maybe not my place to say, but we do work on a lot of these in a lot of different communities and a lot of different contexts. And I will say one of the special things that we encountered in this conversation with your community was the participation inside of City Hall. Having membership from your commission as part of this is really key. I think that expertise and experience, how that manifests in a strong policy. Otherwise, we're guessing until we're until we're wrong. So it has benefited us as a team from the beginning, just how collaborative you are, and it's something to leverage. I think, moving forward, that you all work on problems and challenges and opportunities together. So good on you.
KSK for countless hours of work.
Thank you, Tom.
Again,
No other questions?
any other questions?
No.
Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
See, normally we would ask for questions from the audience, but seeing none, we will move to staff recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Waske. If you're good to move forward, then our recommendation is that you make a recommendation to City Council for adoption of this plan.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Was this a public hearing?
It is not a public hearing.
Okay, so we don't need to close.
I didn't have that, right. I didn't have that written down.
No, but I'm
But
just, yeah.
good point. So we have the staff's recommendation. Last chance, commission comments or discussion?
No.
So moving on, Mr. Ruthman, I believe, has a motion.
I do, Mr. Chair. I have a motion for PC-26-004 for the Kettering Comprehensive Plan for the adoption of the plan. Whereas the Kettering Planning Commission has reviewed case number PC-26-004, the proposed Kettering Comprehensive Plan, our blueprint for growth, and finds that it reflects the community's long-term vision for land use, housing, transportation, economic development, community character, public facilities, and overall quality of life. And whereas the proposed comprehensive plan was developed through a robust public engagement process that included community workshops, stakeholder meetings, surveys, and review by city staff, and whereas the comprehensive plan is consistent with the goals and values of Spark Kettering Strategic Plan and provides an updated framework to guide decision-making and future growth. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Kettering Planning Commission hereby recommends that the Kettering City Council adopt the Kettering Comprehensive Plan, our blueprint for growth, as the official long-range planning policy document for the city of Kettering. This concludes my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ruthman. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Holmesy, would you call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Rethman,
Yes.
Mr. Urbis,
Yes.
Mr. Lackey,
Yes.
and Mr. Waske.
Yes. So the motion to approve the Kettering Comprehensive Plan is passed. Under new business, we have audience participation, but there being no one in the audience, we'll move on from there.
You want to make a comment?
Oh, yes. You have any comments on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, here's your chance. Signing of plats under other business.
We have none this evening.
Okay, communications and reports.
The only thing I wanted to add was that we are actively searching for a new planning commission member. I do know the advertisement is out there. It is on our website. I didn't look for it. Sorry, Mr. Waske. I meant to, but I did see it last week on our website. I do know that we have at least one application. It'll be open until the mayor decides that we have enough applications, and I'm not sure the exact process they will go through, but they usually do an interview with the applicants and then choose a new member. So I'll keep you up to date on how that's moving.
Okay, when you find that, Mr. Robillard, would you let me know where on the website it is? Because I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And finally, Planning Commission comments.
Nope.
None? None? None?
Anything else? No.
And I have none, too. So, with that, our next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 6th, 2026 at 7 p.m. And the time is, Mr. Rethman, timekeeper?
7:40.
7:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Meeting is adjourned.